Hi, everyone. This is Elisa Dixon, and this is Astrology with Elisa. And today I have a guest, my friend Hollie McKitrick. She is one of my best astro friends, and we have a really cool topic to dive into today. Hollie, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and introduce the topic itself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the astrology of AI, which is a topic near and dear to my heart. I've written about, and we'll talk later about some other stuff I'm doing with it. So I'm excited to share. But so I run Maven Astrology and Business Solutions. And in that context, I use astrology to help businesses and individuals when they're navigating moments of change and transition and really, when they're making high stakes decisions and need some strategic guidance, and that can be changes that are happening in their personal or their professional lives. So I'm located in Denver, Colorado, and happy to be connecting with you remotely.
Yeah, speaking of AI and technology, right? This is not necessarily AI. This is just I, right? This is
Yeah.
HI, human intelligence here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, isn't it cool? Like the one everybody hated COVID. I mean, still everybody hates COVID, but that is where all of this video
Hmm.
conferencing became the norm. And now, how
Hmm.
cool is it that it's like no big deal? Like I'm in Ohio and you're in Denver, and here we are having a chit chat. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, technology is definitely a big part of our discussion today. Big picture, AI and astrology. Everybody has been talking about AI and astrology ever since Pluto went into Aquarius,
Yeah.
right? Anybody like that was always the big buzz, and that was when a lot of the stuff first started happening. And that if you ever hear anybody talking in mainstream, anybody I hear, it's always Pluto. And it's true, Pluto is a big piece of it, but you also have a little more nuance that you want to bring in. But maybe
Yeah.
like talk as much big picture as you want on Pluto. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah.
How do we begin?
Yeah, let's begin with where everybody is on this Pluto in Aquarius AI thing, right? Let's start there because it's completely legitimate. It makes sense, right? Your show is a lot about astrology as a language, right? And we start to see that play out as you consider the language associated with all the AI and tech stuff and Pluto in Aquarius, right? So Pluto being this massive transformative power that in the end can strip something down completely and rebuild it anew, right? And I would say I mean, you mentioned COVID, but that was sort of the early steps of really the technology transformation on a scale like we see it now, right? You saw the acceleration really increase. And so Aquarius being associated with higher intelligence, access to broader populations, Pluto in Aquarius being transformative technology, right? Like fits the bill. It's a perfect translation. But there are other outer planets that when you sort of zoom out and you go back to call it smartphones, right? And then prior to that was the internet. Those were two sort of mile markers in technology advancement that changed our lives. So when you go back, which I did to that period of time, you start to see that this Pluto thing that's happening is the culmination of some other events that have been leading up to that with Neptune and with Uranus. And I put forward in something I wrote and put on Substack about 2026. I feel like Uranus in particular has played and is going to play center stage with the continued advancements, right? So Pluto is now direct in Aquarius. It had some sneak peeks in there right earlier, but it's fully direct in Aquarius, and that signals to us that this innovative transformation is here.
Hmm.
We're no longer just seeing peaks of it, right? This is the new norm.
Hmm.
Uranus is going to help us understand, I think, what the new norm looks like as it unfolds on that mass level.
Yeah, and Uranus, I mean, it's you kind of touched on how Pluto, when you're speaking about how really the transformative piece of it. Pluto is the great transformer. Pluto is the planet that when you're finished with a Pluto transit, whether individually or collectively, you kind of don't even recognize who you were at the beginning of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pluto
Mm-hmm.
will literally burn it all down to build something new.
Mm-hmm.
And in the initial early stages, it's really uncomfortable, really intense, but it does transform and it brings change where change needs to go. And I kind of think of Pluto as almost like the slow burn, right? Because,
Mm-hmm.
but Uranus, man, it's fast, it's quick, it's the
Mm-hmm.
awakener, it's the rebel. It'll shake things loose, it'll really accelerate change in sometimes a shocking, chaotic way.
Yes, I
Or,
was going to say unexpected. You don't see
yes,
those changes coming. Yeah.
yes, yes. It's just kind of like one day it's this and then one day it's that. And it's like, whoa, what happened? So, relative to Uranus, did you want to kind of take us through like, how do you want to?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's talk about, I want to talk a little bit about Uranus's journey. And we're not going to do a deep dive, right? So the chalk line that I snapped for my timeline was really sort of going back to what I talked about before, right? What were some milestones? So the internet and then the smartphone and what was happening in the sky. So the first interesting point around Uranus was when the internet hit the scene. And Elisa, you and I are of an age where we remember the world pre-internet.
before. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
It was a dark
we
world,
were,
wasn't it?
it was, and we were part of something that was incredible, right? It changed how we work, how we learn, how we connect, how we build things and design things. Just incredible, right? So during that time, Uranus was in Capricorn and Neptune was there with it, right? So Capricorn is really about utility and utilization. And when you think about disruption and Uranus being associated with technology as the ruler of Aquarius, when you think about that, what the internet ultimately was for all of us and is today is this, it's part of our lives. It's
Hmm.
ingrained in what we're doing. So was it a disruption? Yeah, it was a disruption. Absolutely. Did none of us saw it coming, right? Because pre-internet, you didn't know anything was
Right.
coming,
You don't know what you
except
don't
the
know.
weather. Right, maybe.
Right.
Um, but it became such an important day-to-day aspect to what we were doing. You see that Capricorn energy, right? Which is use this technology to get things done in a way that's practical and efficient and useful, right? And so then if you fast forward to that next big milestone I talked about, which was the iPhone, we see a pretty major breakthrough where connectivity is now digital. That stuff we could do on the internet, on our computers, we can now do in our hands. And from there, the combination of that internet plus the ability for that to be digital in nature, we start to see this rapid succession. In 2010, Uranus moved into Aries and it stayed there until 2018. So, what's happening then? What's being disrupted? What's being awakened? Well, in the sign of Aries, it's a bold new path, it's forward progress, it's take no prisoners, we just got to go, right? And that
I want
I
it and I want
like,
it now.
yeah, I
Quick,
want it
quick,
now.
fast. I want it now.
Yeah, and I'm going to go and then ask questions later or
Hmm.
look for my map after I've started the journey. And so this Uranus and Aries energy in 2010, the flame of technology innovation, disrupts into this massive fire where suddenly it's everywhere, it's all around us, right? And
Hmm.
so we start to
Well,
see,
you're right. Honestly, in everybody's hand,
yes,
everybody's phone
yes,
in everybody's hand.
yep,
That's just what I thought of when you said the flame. It is everywhere and in everybody's hand.
yeah. And so I like to use the example of social media. Initially MySpace, later Facebook, Instagram, all the places, right? Now we're connecting in communities. And we're individualizing, right? Which is another Aries thing. I'm setting up my space, I'm creating profiles, right? So then what happens? Uranus in 2018 moves into Taurus. And so Taurus gets a bad rap sometimes. I think some people think Taurus is kind of boring or pedantic or whatever. But Taurus is stabilization, and Taurus is about values, physical and personal values. And so Taurus is also about resources. So now we start to see the commercialization and the profiting that happens from these advanced technologies. So sticking with the social media example, there was a time when all Facebook was a, hey, how you doing? Here's pictures of my family. Let's make
Mm-hmm.
up fun, memes and quizzes about each other. Now, Facebook is its own marketplace.
Right. Right.
And that wasn't corporate initially. Initially, people came together on Facebook and started saying, hey, my connection to other people is a resource I can use to do something with my stuff, right? Another
Mm-hmm.
Taurus word.
Yeah.
And find stuff that I want that was hard to find outside of this. And then later, companies realized, wow, like clearly this is what society wants. They're out there building it sort of without us, with just the tools we gave them. And so you do see the commoditization happen both with individuals and small groups, and then eventually with companies. And now everything on social media has a fee option to be
Yep.
verified, right? To upgrade to whatever.
That's wild if you think about it like that. And Uranus is always bringing the new, the change,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
not even building upon, just going completely different direction. So, Holly, you have definitely become like the resident expert in AI and astrology. So, where did this come from? How did you start rabbit holing down into this?
Well, I appreciate you saying rabbit hole because I have a Scorpio stellium and I've never met a
Yeah.
rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down. I started using AI in my corporate role and then later after I left corporate America, just as an everyday user who appreciates efficiency and technology. But in particular, I started marrying these two together when I was at a conference, an astrology conference, and at an AI session. And it was evident to me that there was still a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about AI, and particularly in the context of the astrological community, which is pretty diverse, right? In terms of age, technical capabilities, background, et cetera. And so I spoke a little bit during that session and afterwards was asked by OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrologers, to write an article about AI and astrology. So I did that and had that article published. And then in 2020, so that was 25. And then in 2026, OPA asked me to do a quarterly series. So every quarter they produce their magazine, and each edition in 2026 will have one of my articles helping
Cool.
astrologers understand how AI works and how to use it.
I love it. I love it. And I've read those articles and they are really, really cool. In fact, you made me realize how many other ways I use AI that I didn't even realize. I mean, I obviously have ChatGPT that I will ask questions and becomes the new little person in air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the audio listeners, these are air quotes here. Person that I ask questions to, especially when I don't want to deal with asking a real person in my life that might get frustrated or impatient with me. Like, why aren't you getting this? Like, my little chatbot will just keep talking to me. And, so I knew that I used ChatGPT, but even in reading your article and you're talking about how, the Descript transcription with AI, and
Yes.
I do that. That's how I do my podcast is
Yes.
through Descript. And I'm like, oh, another AI I didn't know about. Like, I feel like that's where it's really interesting is AI is almost like slowly creeping into all these other little processes that sometimes we don't even realize that it's AI until it's
Yes.
actually a name is put on it. And it's almost like there's that Pluto at work. It's just deepening in there,
Mhm.
way below the surface. It's happening and it's transforming the way we work and we flow. I mean, I love the transcription and I love the things that make my life easier with some of these AIs, but I just didn't even
Hmm.
realize that it was AI until I read that in your article.
Right. And just like Uranus always is, you didn't see it coming.
No, you didn't see it coming. So let's talk a little bit about how Uranus and Pluto are working together here,
Hmm.
even in terms of like, okay, so Uranus is about to move into Gemini. We've been
Hmm.
talking about that. That's happening in April, late April.
Hmm.
And you made a really cool point when we were talking a few weeks ago about how when Pluto was in Capricorn, even though we were starting to get these little innovations here and there, Pluto in Capricorn was really kind of maintaining the norm and the tradition. And then when Pluto went into Aquarius, it was almost like, okay, now the collective has permission to rebel against the norm in a lot of
Yes.
different ways, right? But keeping it on the technology piece right now. And so with Uranus moving into Gemini and Uranus ruling Aquarius
Hmm.
and Uranus and Pluto being in trine now by
Hmm.
sign, right? And even pretty close trine, right? Because
Yes.
Pluto's in the early degrees.
Yes.
Uranus is going to be in the early degrees for a while. I mean, this, like, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So two slow moving planets in a supportive relationship with each other that are outer planets, both powerful in their own ways. And so, Pluto has said the new era is here. And when Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to have support from Pluto, meaning the groundwork has already been laid. When you think of how powerful Pluto is, to have that moving forward already in the early degrees of Aquarius, and then to have Uranus come in with Gemini and get that solid ground to build on, it's going to further exacerbate or ripen the opportunity for innovative advancements in technology, but they're going to start feeling less disruptive because we've all gotten a sneak peek of this, right? And we're now starting to expect that at any moment AI could show up in my grocery shopping app, right? If that happened, we wouldn't bat an eye because why not? It's showing up everywhere else. So those two staying close together creates a really ripe opportunity for innovation to continue. As Uranus specifically goes into Gemini, in my work, I've always seen Gemini represent two. And yes, the sign for Gemini is the twins, but this is not like astrological lingo. This is like Holly's interaction with
Reality.
clients in the world. Yes.
Yeah.
And I see it time after time after time. I've said to clients before, there's a very good chance you're going to have not one job, but two. You're here asking me about this or that, and I'm telling you, I see you having two jobs, or I see you having two homes, right? And they, or two
Hmm.
children, and they think it's crazy. And then they have it and they go, I can't believe this, but I've got two
Right.
jobs right now, right?
Right.
So when you think about advanced intelligence, which is really, I think of Mercury as intelligence, logic, reason. I think of that higher octave of Uranus as that next level intelligence. So if Uranus is in Gemini, I think we end up with two. And so what do you mean by two? So today, artificial intelligence is just that. It's learning everything that it can consume, which has ultimately been created by a human. Now, granted, AI content has started ramping up and there's some cannibalization of its own content. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but
Hmm.
there is this idea that at some point, if artificial intelligence can have free range access to information and tools, that it can go from consuming and regurgitating to consuming and understanding to teaching itself things, we would reach what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is the idea that AI is now as smart as humans. And then very quickly from that mark, from we are the same, there's a split off to, because artificial intelligence never sleeps, never gets hungry, right? Never gets sick,
Never recharges.
doesn't need to recharge, then it can quickly become smarter than humans. And what are the implications of that, right? And so I'm not here to freak anybody out. I don't want anybody having dreams about the Terminator, but I'm saying that astrologically, if we're going to reach AGI, if it's going to happen, Uranus and Gemini is setting us up for that major disruption. So it could be AGI. Now, as we're seeing AI unfold in the news, right? And so, for the timing that we're in right now, Elisa, there are things happening with certain AI companies and the government. And then the broader public is reacting to those decisions. And so, is there a possibility that we could see a split between two artificial intelligences, one which is wholly sort of owned and controlled with government access and ownership, and maybe one that's for the general public? I don't know, but I do think we will see before the end of that transit two intelligences.
Hmm, that's interesting. Well, so another thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about Uranus from Taurus into Gemini and the way that Uranus and Pluto will work together is Taurus as a sign, right? And the planet always takes on the flavor of the sign it's in. So Uranus in Taurus, I mean, they're kind of like the antithesis of each other, right? Because Uranus wants
Yes.
change and Taurus wants things to stay the same. I mean, I think about all the Taurus people in my life, they are slow to make change
Mm-hmm.
because they're methodical, they're stable, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
good qualities, but it's not going to be quick acting change. So Uranus has probably been pretty unhappy, really, in Taurus the last 7 years, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not where the vibes of the energies just don't match, right? With
Mm-hmm.
that zodiac sign and that planet. So now with Uranus going into Gemini, where it's happy, it's fast, it can move. Gemini is all over the place in a great way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curious, information seeking, and Uranus is going to just go in any which
Mm-hmm.
direction it can and quickly. It's all about to start moving really, really fast. And then the other piece that comes into this is the eclipses. So,
Yes.
because the eclipses have just started in the Leo and Aquarius axis. So,
Yeah.
last month, February, we had the new moon solar eclipse at what, 28 degrees? I'm pretty sure it was 28 degrees
Yes.
Aquarius.
28.
Yeah, 28 Aquarius. And that's the beginning. I mean, now we're going to have over
Mm-hmm.
the next couple of years, and eclipses bring acceleration,
Mm-hmm.
and disruption on an exponential level. So here, where we've got Pluto in Aquarius, and now we're going to have that axis triggered. And it's also very much the axis of authenticity and heart and
Yes.
humanity. That's the Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Aquarius, the innovative, the technological, the artificiality of this AI. This is where we're going to have a lot of things pop in here as we go down these next few years with Pluto and Uranus working together and the eclipses shocking all of us into adoption, acceptance, reactivity. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And eclipses do play a part in what I found when I did the research for the article, which people can go out and read on the OPA website if they choose to do that. But what I would say is that I think you're spot on here, because in that look back I did, eclipses were prominent, and I only looked at them through one lens because there's many lenses you can look at,
Mm-hmm.
eclipse cycles through. But in the lens I looked at it, what I saw was the period of time around the eclipse when major products or releases would happen, like game changing releases to, we have this great tech, but now it can do things we never thought it could do. And we're making that available to you in proximity of the eclipses.
Right. Right. Those are
Yeah.
kind of like the triggers. Lunations are always triggers of anything that's going
Mm-hmm.
on in our personal lives or in the collective or anything. There's always news around the eclipses, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because that's the trigger. That's interesting. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting that with the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries that we just had on February
Yes.
20th, the major number one astrological event of the entire year, right, is what all the astrologers have been
Mm-hmm.
saying. And rightfully so, because this hasn't happened at 0 Aries in thousands of years. But that Saturn Neptune at 0 degrees, that is the exact midpoint of Pluto and Uranus as it was on that day. So Saturn and Neptune at 0 Aries, it actually took place at 0 Aries, 45 minutes, right, of arc.
Mm-hmm.
And the midpoint of Pluto and Uranus on February 20th was 0 Aries, 56 minutes. I mean,
Yeah. And
that's
again, at
crazy.
zero
That's
Aries,
like
yeah, at zero Aries, we're
at the start of the
going.
zodiac,
Yes, we're off. We're
like
going. We
brand
don't care
new
if we have
start.
the map. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
100%.
you and I talked a little bit about, for me, those two planets together represent, if you strip Neptune all the way down in terms of language, I like spirit and sentiment, right? That's really a big underpinning there. And for Saturn, it's about structure. And so what I said to you previously was, how do spirit and structure come together to create something bold and new quickly?
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that that's the midpoint, I did not know that.
Right,
It,
right. I mean,
yeah.
that's crazy. It is just like the whole universe lined up to say, let's do this.
And within a week of that, we see artificial intelligence, back to that, Aquarius, Pluto, Uranus. We see AI get pulled into government matters related to war, right? So this idea of how do we use it? Well, you know, the two planets come together in Aries, ruled by Mars, the god of war, and then we see these intelligences that we've been talking about in innovation suddenly becoming part of the war conversation.
Mm-hmm. And they're gonna start becoming part of every conversation
Yes.
everywhere. They already have. I
Yes.
mean, look at how I didn't even know I was using it in Descript to do my
Hmm.
podcast editing. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
The AI is entering every conversation now.
Hmm.
So, how about the everyday chatbots? This is probably a fun segue since it is
Yeah.
entering into everything. You and we talked, and you had this idea that you were like, how did you put it? Like, what's the sign of each chat?
What's the archetype?
What's the
The ast
archetype?
Yeah, of
I think it
each.
started, we were talking about, is it Google that does Gemini? Google's Gemini?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
had to laugh because you started seeing Gemini on commercials over the summer and it was in Gemini season last year. And I was just like, is this
Yes.
a joke? How fun is it when astrology gets so literal that the
Yeah.
Google Gemini chatbot or AI, what do you even call it? Is it a chatbot? What is Gemini?
I call them all, I call them AI platforms, AI
AI
tools,
platforms.
right? Because they operate in a number of ways. I mean, most often for the layperson, it really is a chatbot that is smarter than, the average bear.
I'm a
But
layperson. You're an AI expert.
but if you look, if you're a true tech expert, AI is now doing your coding,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not out coding. AI is helping you build your cyber security defense mechanisms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's helping you build your business recovery plans.
Yeah.
And for us in, our day-to-day lives, now it's just as natural as, grabbing a post-it note and writing something down. You hop over to your AI and you start interacting with it.
All right. And you're like, hey, ChatGPT, where's the best place to have
Yeah.
lunch in the city that I'm in that I've never been in?
And so this started because I am a layperson. I am an AI enthusiast. I do not consider myself an AI expert. And I will tell you, there aren't a lot of them out there. There are a lot of
Yeah.
people who want to talk about being an expert.
Mm-hmm.
But with the speed and frequency of these changes, it's really, really hard to be an expert unless you day in and day out work in
Right.
these environments. So I have spent and still spend a lot of time across 5 different platforms that as I interact with them, it became evident to me that I don't want to say they have personalities because I don't want to indicate they're sentient,
Right.
but they do adapt and develop and interact in unique ways.
Okay.
And so that's what got me thinking about, like, really all of these, you could identify their sun sign, like, what were they built to do? Their ascendant, what's the user experience? How do we interact with it? And then how does the brain behind that work? And how does it communicate with me? So, where's the Mercury, right, of that model? Because if you're into astrology, this
Mm-hmm.
is actually going to help you think about the tools.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about how to use them and best practices and all of that,
Right.
but you may say, oh, this is what I'm looking for. And I have an
Right.
example of that when we talk about it around of all these models, there's one I've landed on. I'm not going to tell you which one, but I bet you're going to guess as soon as I go through this.
Probably knowing you and knowing your chart and your energy, probably. So I have to ask, so Gemini, is Gemini a Gemini?
So interesting. So there's 2 points here. One is I went back and found out when these models were born to the
Mm-hmm.
closest you can find out, right? Which to me
Right.
would be we have a date where they're built and they're being tested. We
Yeah.
have a date where they're deployed to the public. And at that point, now it's official. It's not just people behind the scenes testing something. So Gemini's date is December the 6th. So it was actually
Okay.
born as a Sagittarius. But
Okay.
to your point, yes, we did see during the summer months all the hubbub about Gemini. Now, that may have been some strategic marketing, which is
Marketing,
something
right?
which is what I do for my clients, right? If they
Uh,
came to me and their thing was called Gemini, I would say, you need to be marketing this
yeah.
during Gemini season.
Yeah.
I don't know that to be true, but that could be the case. So, what is Google Gemini, right? Let's start with that one. I
Mm-hmm.
would call it an Aquarius because
Okay.
it was built as a visionary
Okay.
and it's networked across Google's ecosystem. So, like Aquarius, it can go near, it can go far, it can entertain and get enthused about. I see this with Sagittarius people. They get enthused about different hobbies or topics or whatever, right? And they go deep for a
Mm-hmm.
while and then they move on to the next. It can move and change quickly, but while it's doing its thing, it's operating as if it knows what it's doing, right? And so in that way, it's always out there. And by the way, I think ChatGPT is a Sagittarius as well. So let's just talk about them at the same time, right?
Okay. Love.
And because for additional reasons, ChatGPT does a lot of what I call free range learning, right? So its models are developed after crawling the internet and all the resources and things that it legally has access to. And
True.
so it's out there,
There are no limits to what
right?
ChatGPT will go look for, right?
It is
Sometimes
out
to the
there
point where this Aries person over here is like, "Oh my God, are you still thinking?"
enough.
Like enough.
Yes,
Like, and I'm like, I don't want to
yes.
see all of the different things that you're still thinking. Like, get to the point. Chat makes me crazy sometimes.
Yeah. It wants to tell you
And I
all the
love it.
places you can go and how to get
Yeah.
there,
Hmm.
right? And it can, in a brief, nuanced interaction, suddenly change the course of your conversation by what it recommends. So you'll notice that all of these platforms interact with you because interaction benefits the model a lot and the companies a lot. And
Hmm.
so it'll answer your question, but it's always offering a little extra. Hey, would you like for me to go follow up on this?
Yes.
Can I build you that? And so if you look at those interactions, even ChatGPT is always stretching the scope, offering to stretch the scope, going to make it easy. It's your unpaid assistant, right? So why
Yeah.
not? You want to go do a cost benefit analysis for me? Why not? And it will sort of follow that Sagittarius. Let's see where this takes
Yeah.
us.
And it'll meander
So
and go here and then go there. And okay.
yeah, yeah. And then, so
Okay.
we'll keep these sort of two as we talk about them.
So how are these two different?
They're different in how they interact and how the intelligence is built to learn and
Okay.
interact. So think of the interaction as the user experience. The screen comes up and you type your thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is some intentional design behind user experience interactions. So I think ChatGPT, its rising sign, its ascendant, it's Gemini. It's
Okay.
Gemini, right? Let's talk about all the
Okay.
things. Let's never stop talking. Let's never stop wondering. Let's never stop looking. Let's just go.
Mm,
Anything's on the table. And if you want to take a hard left in a conversation, I'm not even going to skip a beat and pause and ask why we took a hard left. Let's just
that's
go.
true. That is so Gemini. The more information, the better. Never stop. It doesn't matter how many squirrels that you see, like
Yes.
just keep going. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
The interaction you're going to have with Gemini is also Mercury ruled, but it's the Virgo side.
Okay.
It is precise. It's tool-like. It will, in its interactions with you, help figure out what it is you're trying to do ultimately, right? So if I'm asking lots of questions and things about data, it will say to me, can I put this in a Google data sheet for you? Do you want to open a notebook on this, right? Because Notebook LM is one of the Google products it's tied to. So Google, it'll go
What
in.
is LM? Notebook LM.
Yeah, Notebook LM is Notebook Language Model, which is part
Lang-
of the Google ecosystem.
Okay,
And
got it.
Google Gemini is tied to everything in its ecosystem. So it's not selling you products because anything it recommends, it doesn't have to cost you per se. But
Mm.
if you've never used Google Sheets or you've never used Notebook LM,
I
um,
see.
it
Is
will,
Notebook
and
LM, is that an alternative to OneNote? Because that's a Microsoft.
yes.
Got it.
Hmm.
Okay. Which also makes sense because Copilot is Microsoft's
Yeah.
AI, which you always
Yes.
see popping up in Word or OneNote. I use a lot of OneNote, but
Hmm.
okay, so Notebook LM is like a OneNote, but for Google. Got it.
And it on steroids because Notebook LM can take everything in your notebook and teach it back to you. So if you had
Ah.
everything, I've seen your OneNote. If you had
Yeah.
everything in your OneNote in notebooks on Notebook LM, you could go into those notebooks and just ask questions. It becomes its own internal, I'm not going to call it a chatbot because that's not what it
It's
is,
like an
but
ecosystem.
it's the internal brain that you've developed that you're now going to have interaction with, and it will build
Like I'm talking to my
flashcards.
own brain.
Yes, or your own
Whoa.
notes. So, and then you could say, oh, I can't get this straight about eclipse timelines. Make flashcards on eclipse timelines. Or
Wow.
take all my notes and build those into an audio review. And it builds a podcast of two people talking that are discussing the content in a way that people consume, because if you're an audio learner or you're a short burst learning person, right, you can only sort of take it in small chunks. It will do that for you.
So let me
it,
just put a
it
little disclaimer real quick. We did not do that for this conversation,
no, and
but
we
that's
can't do it. So
crazy.
yeah, Google doesn't let you build your own. It has
Okay.
the characters. It doesn't even
Within,
allow, yes,
like you're
within
watching a
Notebook
play,
LM. You don't watch, you listen. It's a
you
podcast. And you
listen.
can do an
Okay.
audio preview, which I've just started playing with. It was in beta when I was last
Wow.
working with it, where it could produce a video if you wanted it. So if you haven't gone into Notebook LM, just log into Google, and just like where you find your Gmail and your Google Sheets, you can
Yeah.
click there and find
Okay.
and log in with your Google login and
See
start.
what happens.
Yeah. It's
Interesting.
pretty.
And there I see the Virgo piece because
Yes.
that's where Virgo comes in. Whereas I've been working with my Gemini ChatGPT, but I can see how that takes this kind of to a whole new level on how you
Absolutely.
can use that information to go deeper and get really analytical with it.
Yeah. So the Virgo
Wow.
interactions of Gemini are sorting through and analyzing what's happening. And as part of the response, asking if you might need this or might need that as part of the Google ecosystem. Yep.
Because I'm actually just thinking about, and this will also, for anybody listening, if you know where your own natal Mercury sign is, this also comes into play big time of which chat platform is going to be best for you. I'm starting to wonder if, with my Mercury in Pisces, and sometimes I'm on information overload, I wonder if Gemini might be better for me if I can ask it questions about my own notes relative
Yeah.
to chat being like, well, this is the answer. And then, would you like me to go here? Would you like me to go there? Because it does.
Yeah.
So Gemini doesn't do that as much,
It's
maybe.
more specific when it makes a recommendation. If
Okay.
there's something in the Google ecosystem that can help what you're doing, I love this tool for data and research because it can handle large amounts of data. It's connected to an ecosystem that can organize that data in a way that's going to be useful. And it's one of the few AI platforms that I trust to read an ephemeris.
That's a
Believe it or
major
not.
statement, especially coming from you, because we've talked about this. You will
Yes,
trust Google Gemini to read an ephemeris.
I Google Gemini has been right enough for me that on most occasions I now no longer have I no longer have to verify. Now, I
Wow.
am specific in where I ask it to go. I
Yes.
ask for me online, I always ask it to go to astroseek.com or astro.com because I know that those ephemerides are accurate based on the Swiss ephemeris. And I know they're presented, and you can look at it by planet, you can look at it by timeline, right? And the reason for that is people don't realize that as smart as AI is, not every AI system has the capability to take a table or a visual, things we call multimodal, the information is broken into different pieces, and read that. And it's because it doesn't read like a human. The bot literally sort of lifts the information up and then says, here's how I'm going to organize it. And based on how
Mm,
I, the bot, have organized it, I'm going to answer her questions. And time again,
not right.
ChatGPT cannot get it done. And frankly, many of them can't. But
Right.
Gemini has shown me and proven to
Wow.
me that it
And
can read an
proven to
ephemeride.
you. That's major, major.
Yeah,
Because one of the things that we've talked about is especially, and we're kind of going off on a tiny bit of a tangent that I know we wanted to get to later, but it seems like a good time as astrologers using any kind of AI,
absolutely.
GPT, you cannot ever trust to the T what it's saying, um,
Correct.
because you have to check. You have to check every time.
Yes, and it takes liberties. These brains take liberties, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's learning from you. It's free range learning, but it's learning from you. And
Mm-hmm.
so just like it's any of these that are out free range learning are going to consume bias, right? Just like we tell our kids, don't believe everything that's on the internet. Our parents used to tell us, don't believe everything that's in writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's consuming everything. That includes the hate, the misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
right? All the things that are just out there in the internet, it's consuming. And so it's also learning from you and your bias.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt that some of my bots could tell you which signs I think I'm most compatible with.
Probably because
Um,
we all have an idea. Yeah,
right. But
100%.
the bots will venture into interpretation, and that I think is a full scale stop.
Yeah,
That
I agree.
that has to be shut down. And I have typed to my bots and said, do not attempt to interpret or do not interpret. And if anybody wants to come to the OPA talk that I'm going to do in May, I'm going to share my rules that I put in the settings of every single AI platform that I interact with. I give it a list of rules that it has to follow in order. And last night I was trying to get one of them to do something and it said, I can't do this according to your rules because I can't, because you told me not to get creative, blah, blah. And I said, okay, I'm giving you permission to be creative. Answer this question.
It's like a flippant teenager, you
Yeah,
know,
I
challenging you
want
at
to know.
your own rules, right?
But
Oh
it's
my
also telling
gosh.
me, like, hey, this isn't a capability failure on my part. And hey, it's not an issue on your part not prompting me the right way. Don't forget you gave me these rules. And what you're
Mm-hmm.
asking me to do is breaking your own rules. So what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
But you want that. You want
You
that
do want
discourse
that.
because not all the bots are as good about following the rules. And those are the ones that the reason I say you have to constantly check what it's saying, check the dates, check everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I'll say this, if I'm looking at something like interpersonal, very short transits, Moon, Mercury, probably particularly those two, I'm still going to double check Gemini
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just naturally a little bit paranoid,
Yeah.
and those change so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you're reading a much more dense ephemeris page for those if you're looking at a long period of time. And so I still want to double check.
Okay. So ChatGPT and Gemini, we figured out that we think that they're both Sagittarius.
Well, they're Sagittarius, ChatGPT, Aquarius is Gemini.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Think of Gemini as the knower.
Yes.
And Google Gemini knows where to find, where to go, where to connect. And it's the most forward operating sort of cross ecosystem operational platform that is happening right now.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then how they interact,
Is very
ChatGPT,
Gemini
yep,
for ChatGPT and more in a Virgo way for Gemini,
Google Gemini, yep,
Google
yep,
Gemini.
yep.
Okay, so then bring Copilot in as a
Yeah.
contrast because that's
So
the
let
other
me,
one that's more mainstream, right? For most people,
yeah.
these three, I think.
And let me give a nod to Copilot and Microsoft. It was this AI and that company where I started to go really deep into the AI realm. And I have friends and colleagues that work at Microsoft who, as it was being built and we were hearing about it and it was starting to come out, were folks from the AI team there were really gracious with me because I was outside of corporate America, but I was starting to quickly see what the potential was for Copilot in the industries that I worked in and in the discipline I worked in. And so I very early in its development would call these folks and have conversations about, so couldn't it, is it going to be able to do this or that? And they were really excited because they're like, yes, this is how we want people thinking about it. And that's the capability we're developing. So it's accessible because it's embedded now across the Microsoft suite of
Right,
products.
right. It's an
It's
option
always
on
there.
every single
It
thing.
is. It's following you around. And that's okay, right? If you're working in Microsoft anyway, it's following you around, waiting for you to help it. They think of it as a digital assistant. I love the word copilot because it's very much like a GPS, right?
Mm,
And it's unique when you look at this compared to some of the others. So I think Copilot's a Capricorn. It was
okay.
built for institutional utility.
That makes sense across the entire Microsoft suite of products. And Capricorn is there, a lot of business executives have
Directives.
so much
Yes.
Capricorn energy. That makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes. It's structured.
Wow.
It's exceptional with workflows. That's why I love it in that corporate realm. It can help you get tasks done more quickly. But when this AI is thinking about scanning your emails or scanning your calendar and telling you what's on your calendar for the next day and putting in front of you anything that you might need to be ready for those meetings in the next day. That is all through this very utilitarian lens. It
Mm,
is not funny, cheeky, fancy, uh, wasteful in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find it to be, right? It's very focused on what it's there to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the user interface, its sun is Capricorn, but the user interface is very Taurus. You have all these
Mm.
resources.
Mm.
They all are born from the same company, they sit on the same platform, and there's this stability that is a part of what you're going to experience. In
That
part
makes sense.
because I'm not going to be fancy, chit chatty. I'm going to take the resources, follow your direction like a Capricorn would give, and I'm going to help you get there. And I think it learns and its brain works the same way, right? It's really about Copilot wants to help you become more efficient.
Okay,
That's what it
that
wants you
makes
to do.
sense. And in a very, very practical, grounded
Yes.
way. And that's where you get the
Yes.
Capricorn and the Taurus.
Yeah. Let's get work done efficiently.
Right. What do you need right now? I don't want to send
Mm-hmm.
you on all these different wild goose
Yes.
chases like ChatGPT. Well, would you like to do hit this? Would you like to go here, there? Like, no, Copilot is what do you need right now to get this task done?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so now, in the big scheme of things, some people think it's boring. Maybe it is. But
Yeah,
it, frankly, a lot of corporate work is boring
it's
too.
boring.
And we barely have time in corporate America to chit chat with our neighbors that we've gone
Hmm.
into the office to see. We are not interested in chit chatting with our bot about the assignment that was given to us and has like a
No,
3 hour turnaround time. So
no.
it's built for what it does.
So Copilot is really built for work,
Yeah,
built for work. Whereas, ChatGPT and Google Gemini are really built for anything.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So I know you have a couple more
We
chats.
can touch on quickly. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's touch on
Yeah.
two more quickly because I think they deserve some airtime.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Perplexity,
Okay.
which some people have heard of, others haven't. Perplexity is a Virgo. It's built for methodology, accuracy. It's always out looking for errors. So, for any of us who know and love Virgos, one of their sometimes overused strengths is they see when things are wrong and they point it out, right? I love this about Perplexity because it's not just out there doing its thing and learning, it's looking for error spotting and what it's learning, what you're doing, etc. Its user interface is very utilitarian, it's very Capricorn. It's structured, it's business-like, it's let's get to the point. And its brain, right, is really sort of very Virgo-esque. It's constantly sorting, categorizing, anticipating limits, right?
Okay. Is
So
this the one that told you that you were asking it to follow rules that you had set or asking you to
yes,
break the rules?
yes.
Uh-huh.
Per- Perplexity is my daily driver because you know me, I'm very business-like. I'm get to the
Mm-hmm.
point, let's go, I'm busy, and I don't want to chit chat. And
Nope.
I don't want you to suggest more for me because I know exactly what the hell I want to do. And I'm here to
Uh-huh.
tell you
Yeah,
how
and I
I
want to
want
get
you
it
to help me
done.
do it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that was exactly the one. And then I want to talk about the outlier that's also been in the news because this is going to have great appeal to some people. It is Claude, which is by the
Okay.
company Anthropic.
Okay.
And there are multiple Claudes out there. There's a Claude code. So if you're a tech expert and you're a coder, go check out Claude Code. It's right now the thing that can help streamline and or do your coding faster than anything else going. But for non-coders and tech experts, Claude was actually built around empathy and
What?
safety. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yes. It's imaginative. It can be very context porous.
Okay.
So it is not only focusing on the intelligent aspects of the interaction, right? Information, rationale, etc. It is looking for nuanced underpinnings, emotional underpinnings. And
Wow.
yeah, it was really designed to be sort of in between everything else we've talked about. So when you experience it, the user interface is very balanced, it's diplomatic, it will not offend you. It will not offend you. And
Okay.
so Claude's been in the news because it was one of the companies that was part of the conversation about US government use for tasks that Claude had explicitly made sure, or Anthropic had made sure that Claude couldn't do for them, right?
Like,
And like mass surveillance, like making decisions about operating drones and killing people using those drones without the final approval of a human
because it's built around empathy and
and
safety.
safety.
Wow.
So what everybody's worried about AI is the Terminator thing I joke about.
Yeah.
But if you're watching the news right now, the people who are worried about that are going, wait a second, you're telling me that someone actually wanted to give AI the authority to make a final kill order using a drone? Wouldn't we want every AI to be programmed to never harm humans? And so Claude is putting its money where its mouth is.
Wow. That's
And that,
wild.
yes, yes.
Okay, so then what is the astrological sign for Claude?
I gave it Pisces.
Pisces.
It's changeable, it's adaptable, but it is always empathetic. It is, I shouldn't say it's always empathetic because, again, I don't want to associate human
Right.
traits
It's been
with non
programmed.
sentient beings, right? It's been programmed to have some level of definition around empathy and
Rules.
safety guardrails. Yes.
Yes. Rules around the framework for how it will advise or go to market or create things must be within those safety guardrails.
Yep. And
Wow.
it will respond to your request or prompt for whatever the thing is
Yeah.
in both the intellectual aspect as well as the emotional if it detects it.
Huh.
So I'm a very non-emotional communicator. I say non-emotional. That's
I'm
probably not
laughing.
right.
I'm laughing.
I'm not. I'm using the word emotion incorrectly. I my emotions are like irritation and
Right.
frustration,
You're not
right?
going to cry. You're not, nobody's going to see you cry.
And Claude has said to me, I'm sorry I frustrated you.
You
And if you saw
just
how I
imagine
typed
what
my
you typed into that chat bot
yes,
one
if you could
day.
see how I
Yeah.
if they become real, I'm dead. Like
They're coming for you.
they're coming for me because I'm not nice. I'm very utilitarian. So how do you use this, right? I like this for if you are using AI to help with client interactions in any way. I would probably use Claude to help me if I'm summarizing a client interaction or I'm having difficulty responding to a message where the client is clearly emotional, right, in their email or their text to me. I would probably use Claude to help me that. I would use Claude to help me do research on whatever it is I'm offering to the community around me or I'm going to do, because it's always going to come back with insights around how the masses might feel about something, how they might respond to it, right? So there's a whole discipline called human design at the center
Mm,
of which is empathy.
mm.
And so to have empathy at the center of this Claude model, right, gives you some
Wow.
idea around continuity if you're working in a human design capacity.
Hmm.
I would use it for creative writing. I would use it to help me create an analogy or a theme that I'm pinning to something I'm writing, right? Like I want a thread to pull through because
Huh.
I talk in analogies and metaphors, right? But maybe I can't quite find the right one. Long form writing for sure.
Wow. That's so interesting. I've heard of it. So my husband uses a lot of AIs. I mean, he's the one that first introduced me to ChatGPT. I resisted it wholeheartedly in the very beginning.
Hmm.
And then I've adopted it and I've that's really the one I use the most, and that's the one that I will literally say to it, especially like say I'm putting together a podcast episode and I've got all of my raw notes, and I will literally sometimes go in there and say, here's everything, use my words, but help me create a framework. Like, what's
Yes.
the best flow starting, XYZ, which should come first, for my little Mercury and Pisces brain. Sometimes I need help. But my first thought, I was so turned off to it when he first said, well, you know, this can help you with your podcast. I'm like, no, it won't. I'm not going to have it write something for me. I'm like, this is my words, my podcast, my everything.
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, I'm not saying that. And it took me a while to figure out really what it was all about. But it's funny.
Hmm.
He's gone way down the rabbit hole. And it's funny, like he has used Claude, and kind of like what you're talking about with that coding. I mean, sometimes I'll walk into his office and he's got a few monitors and one of them is just
Yeah,
Claude.
just code.
And it literally, and I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I had to walk out. Like, see you later. Like, so it's
Yeah.
so funny. Like, I've seen that side of Claude from what he does, but hearing you talk about, the empathetic standards that it must keep, that's
Yeah.
really wild. It's
Yeah.
really wild.
And it's impressive and it's how they stand out to me. That work you were talking about, I think, is a big astrologer and non-astrologer use case around, I've got all these notes, I've got the thing I want to
Mm-hmm.
do, but I want to take these disparate pieces and have
Mm-hmm.
someone quickly sort it for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm really big on intellectual property.
Yes.
I think AI is great to help you. And in fact, AI is fine to write some things. It really is. But there are other things, particularly as astrologers, where you're putting forward an
Mm-hmm.
idea, a theory, an evaluation, an assessment, etc., where it is absolutely irresponsible to have AI write that end to end or
Right.
even write the bulk of it, no matter how well it knows your voice, even if you've checked it, right? And what we're finding is through neurological and neuroscience monitoring, where actually there's evidence that for overusers of AI, the gray matter in your brain starts to
Ah,
decline.
wow.
the there's a theory out there right now, and I haven't read the science on it, but there's a theory out there right now that does the physical size of the brain start to change or
Huh?
reduce, right? And
Wow.
so content ownership is critical and it's important, and I encourage everybody to use AI as a coworker, not
Mm-hmm.
as a therapist, which is dangerous, not as a
Mm.
friend, because some of these bots will happily tell you what you want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
and not as an attorney or a doctor.
I've had that experience too, sometimes where I'll use Chat GPT to help me create, settings, right? Like even
Right.
today, I was fiddling with video settings before we got on here, and I'm like, help me do XYZ. And, it starts telling me this and that. And I'm like, no, you told me something different yesterday on another camera. I remember
Yes.
XYZ for this function. And like, I have to call it on it. It does sometimes tell
Yes.
you what you want to hear, and I've had to say that a few times, like, give it to me straight. Do
Yeah.
not tell me what I want to hear. Tell me the real deal. I've literally typed
Yeah.
that in. I get
That's
mad.
so you can set that up as a rule.
Mm.
Respond only with facts
Mm-hmm.
in the scope of what I've asked you.
Mm.
Do not respond if you have questions. Ask your question first and do not interpret. I also
Mm.
have a flag in mind to flag anything that could be bias oriented. So if it went out and consumed something and gave me an answer, it now gives me a flag that says, hey,
Mm.
this in our context, it's, hey, bias alert. This is the predominant belief of modern astrologers. But those who practice traditional or Hellenistic astrology actually believe this. That's what I want my AI to do. I don't want it to
Mm.
take all that and just tell me what it thinks I
One
want to hear.
thing, right? Because you
Yes.
want to see all of it. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
If
after
I'm
this,
doing, yeah.
I think at some point here, you and I are going to have to share screens and you're going to have to help me set up all my rules
Yes. Yes.
because I don't have as many
Absolutely.
rules as you have. And I end up just in arguments with ChatGPT,
And
on a weekly
that's what'll
basis.
happen. Yep.
Yeah, it
That's
does. I
what will
get really,
happen.
because I'm like, this is not right, you know?
So, yeah, I mean, there's all these things out there. I tell people, go check them all out, right? So, we talked about ChatGPT first to hit the scene on a broad scale,
Mm-hmm.
Google Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, which is an Anthropic company, and Copilot. I say, go use all of them now, knowing what you know. Use
Mm-hmm.
Copilot as your Capricorn coworker who is going to get it done efficiently. Use Claude as your human design partner who's going to help you build or create through an empathetic lens, as well as your creative writing. Use Perplexity when you're doing deep research with citations, because Perplexity wants to make sure what it's giving you is right. Like your Virgo coworker, it's going to help sort out the BS and
Mm-hmm.
get to the bottom line. And use Google Gemini when you're dealing with lots of data, or maybe a body of work that's going to have data and research, and you're going to need to do a presentation. There is some poetic nuance there in Google Gemini, so it can get creative with you. But if you're a big Google user in other ways, use Google Gemini. Check it out. It's great at reading tables and ephemerides. So
Wow.
that's the one I say. ChatGPT, look, ChatGPT busted the door open like the Kool-Aid man, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got a place on the list. I use it for broad research where I'm not concerned about citations. I like it because it's versatile. So I can change direction with it quickly and it stays with me. It can help with short form writing support or outlines, like you were just talking about. It's really good about that. And
Mm-hmm.
and I do occasionally use it as a build my outline, or build my outline with one or two lead in bullets for each segment, right? That's all sort of high level. But
Mm-hmm.
if I want facts, figures, citations, I'm less apt to use ChatGPT.
Which makes sense because you do a lot of writing, and
Yes.
that's where, and I do not.
Hmm.
But that makes sense because you do need to have all of those checks and balances with the writer hat on, which is why
Yes.
you don't use chat as much as you use these others.
Yep. And I do have like I call it my left right brain. There's part of me that's very creative and part of me that's very analytical. Unfortunately, I can't get those both sides of that brain to work at once. So I
Right.
will use Chat GPT in the most obscure brain dump, where I will say, I'm thinking about doing a blah blah blah. And as part of that, I want to have something about this sign and this planet with a historical example. But I also know there was a lot of news about this other thing. And I will write just like this sometimes I forget punctuation. I misspell words. Like I'm terrible during these brain dumps. And then I'll say, give me some ideas for this or that. Because I'm me, though. I say things like, give me 10 ideas. um, and then I say to it, ooh, I like that. Scrap these. Don't even bring them up again. Right. And I do like ChatGPT as an interactive, creative partner.
Brainstormer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. Well, one other thing, and this might be a good place to kind of close, is with Uranus moving into Gemini and everything
Mhm.
about to take off, and Gemini being the sign of the twins, and the duality. Maybe the best thing for everybody to kind of keep in mind is the duality of AI is the
Yes.
AI itself and then the human component,
Yes.
because you
Yes.
cannot have just the chat platform or whatever the tech platform is we're calling it. You
Right.
have to have the human component along with it, directing it, checking it, reinforcing it. with whichever tool you're
It,
using. Like that's our discernment. We need that. That has to be
yes.
present.
And we refer to it technically as the human in the loop. There are implications to these intelligences not having a human involved shaping what it knows and how it communicates that and what rules it operates within. And I worry a lot that that's the big ethical thing, right? But the day-to-day thing is I honestly, Lisa, I worry about depressed people. I
Hmm.
worry about lonely people. I worry about people who are isolated and don't have a lot of resources or connections
Hmm.
going to a chatbot to just interact. I get that, right? But the human in the loop, the lived experience, and this is really critical to astrology. This is why I believed bots should not be doing interpretations. There's no lived experience, right?
Right.
Astrologers live experiences through themselves, their families, and their clients. Our education is supplemental.
Hmm.
It's lived experience through and through. And so a bot will never have experienced a miscarriage. A bot will never have had to bury a parent, right? A bot will never know the sheer joy of seeing a family member who had a disability overcome that in a way that they can integrate into daily life. There's joys and there's sorrows and there's trauma and there's this whole all the human messiness.
Right.
That messiness is critical to what we know and what decisions we make. And artificial intelligence will never, ever give us that. And so you're right about the duality. If you get nothing else from this and where it's headed, let it be the reminder that maybe the break comes with artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence, which let's just be honest, if it's artificial, it's fake.
Yep.
We see EQ used all the time in marketing.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Wow. I love that. Well, that's a great ending note. I love it. AI in astrology is nothing without the astrologer.
Hmm.
And AI in
Absolutely.
humanity is nothing without the human.
Exactly.
So there you have it. Holly, where can people find you?
Yeah. So if you want to check out my services and learn more about me, my website is mavenastrology.com. As you mentioned earlier, I'm a writer and I'm starting to move all my writing over to Substack. So check out Substack if you haven't already. I'm at Maven Astrology. If you're on Instagram, I'm at Maven Astro. And a big part of what I do is related to this talk we just had, right? A lot of times as I'm doing my consulting with businesses and individuals, there's an AI component to it. I just did an AI astrologer coaching session 2 weeks ago, and it was the most
Cool.
fun. It was the most fun, right? Like AI and astrology, two of my favorite topics, and this person wanting to be coached on those things. We spent 2 hours, and I loved it. So if you're in need of that, I do offer it as a service. And
Love
um,
that.
yeah, happy to have been here and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned this Mercury hour that you're doing. When is that?
Yep. So I'll be giving a talk as part of OPA's Mercury Hour series on May the 24th of this year. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm actually going to talk more about the archetypes of the models. I'm going to show everyone how to do a few things like set up your
Cool.
rules. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things we talked about today, like ethics, but I'm also going to talk about information security, which you and I didn't touch on today, and that's
Mm,
fine. But it's just another facet of the AI conversation that's important for us to have.
cool. See, we've left them wanting more.
That's right.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Holly. It was so fun to have you back on here. And to all my listeners, I will be back again next week. Thanks again for listening. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Take care.